Welcome to Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. This Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com for the most original Wyoming news information in the Cowboy State. Also brought to you by Chugwater Chili. Go to chugwaterchili.com. You're going to have some opportunities here over the next couple of days to go online because traveling is going to be difficult in some areas here real soon. Get 20% off using code at checkout of Chugwater Don and stock up on their Chugwater chili seasoning. As we take a look, we've got snow, wind, blowing snow. It's just going to be miserable in some parts of the West, especially the wind-prone areas where blowing snow is a problem. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Snow and falling temperatures will be overspreading the central and northern Rockies today. It already has, depending on where you are. It also is going to be a windy pattern. We're going to have some blowing snow headaches, especially along Interstate 80 Friday and Saturday. Just a real heads up that Interstate 80 between Cheyenne and probably to the Utah border, there will be blowing snow problems with strong winds and icy conditions. We all know how this works. You get the snow, then you get the wind, and you've got real problems in I-80. It's going to be a snow factory for some mountain areas of the West. This is going to be a tremendous boon to the snowpack, getting the snowpack off to a good start. It's later getting started, but it's going to catch up real soon. We're going to have temperature whiplash. Temperatures are going to be up a day, down a day, all across the West. They're going to be crazy, these temperatures over the next week or so. Every time it gets cold, there'll be some snow in the mountains and snow showers on the plains. Every time it gets warmer, it's going to get windy. The long-term pattern, though, looking through mid-December, certainly is looking like winter. We'll show you a little bit of a sneak peek on that. Satellite photo here today shows the moisture and that trough. Here it is right here. Over the last 3 days, we've seen it go from here to here, and now this axis of moisture is coming up through the Four Corners, stretching northeastward across Colorado and Wyoming. And this funneling of moisture is also working with colder air coming in behind it. Then out in the Pacific, here's the next fetch of moisture and the next fetch of cold air. That's going to form the next deep low off the Pacific Northwest coast this weekend and into early next week. So here's the 500 millibar chart showing that big high in the eastern Pacific, the trough coming through the Rockies, and you're going to get that cold air coming in behind it. But this system is also pushing out some very warm air. We had some record high temperatures in North Dakota yesterday, and this is what happens, especially when you change seasons. You have a big displacement of air from latitude. So you have this big displacement from the lower latitudes of very warm air getting pushed north. On the other side of the trough, the opposite happens. So this gives you that whiplash that we're going to be talking about here in a moment. Now, this is by Saturday evening. Look at how strong the jet stream winds. See how close these black lines are together? As we've talked about in other podcasts, when those black lines are really close together, that means the winds aloft at jet stream level are moving along very quickly. We've also talked about when these winds are perpendicular to the north-south trending mountain ranges of the West, that causes a wave feature that then goes like this and then causes very strong winds along and east of the Continental Divide. And this is what's going to happen. We're going to have a lot of wind in that area here developing in that Friday, Saturday time frame, and hence the problems with blowing snow. If you were to look at the precipitation, this is through 6 p.m. Sunday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time Sunday. Look at the Pacific Northwest continuing to get pounded, but some pretty good amounts of moisture spreading out across some of the plains and some of the mountain ranges. And that's your snowfall forecast through Sunday, 6 p.m. But it doesn't stop there because we're going to see more coming. Look at the Pacific Northwest mountains. Look at the Cascades. We're talking 2 to 3 feet of snow through Sunday with just this initial pattern we're in now, and there's more coming. But here's the problem with the wind. These are the high wind gusts forecasted between now and 6 p.m. Sunday. And you can see how windy it's going to be across the Pacific Northwest, the northern Rockies, and then here's your problems in Wyoming and the higher elevations of northern Colorado with wind, but also some pretty good wind over southern Colorado and northern New Mexico as well, getting back into eastern Arizona. If you were to focus in on this for the I-80 corridor, this is why we're going to have some headaches here. Look at that gust of 69 or more around that Elk Mountain, Arlington area. You put several inches of snow on the ground, you put winds like that, you've got problems. Very strong winds along in the I-25 corridor as well. in Wyoming, getting into extreme northern Colorado. Then you get into that Estes Park, Rocky Mountain National Park area. That's a signature for very high winds as well. As we get into Wednesday, we have another low just settling in, replacing the one we have now. This is going to drive moist Pacific air into the northern and central areas of California and the Pacific Northwest again. But there's that temperature whiplash. It's also going to draw warm air back in. So we're going to get colder, then we get windy and warmer, then we'll get colder, then we'll get windy and warmer. It's going to be back and forth like this for the next week. But the colder periods will also result in significant mountain snows. So by noon Thursday, that trough begins to move across the northern Rockies. This will drag cold air back in, and it will drag more snow into the mountains, and eventually probably some snow on the plains as well. And to give you kind of an example of the weather whiplash with temperatures, these are the temperature anomalies by 6 p.m. today. This is by noon Saturday. See, it goes from blue to orange in many areas. Then, as we get into Sunday, the cold air comes back in again. Then it kind of leaves us. This is by Tuesday and Wednesday. Look at the contrast. Much warmer than average temperatures in the Midwest and Corn Belt. Right up here, really cold air. And in between, you're going to have a lot of wind. Then as we get into next Friday, the cold air comes in, and then it pushes all the way across a large part of the western United States into the Midwest and Corn Belt. The cold front getting here to the Appalachians by next weekend. So for the Midwest, the Corn Belt and the Great Lakes, the cold will hold off for a little longer, but by next weekend, the luck runs out and the cold overspreads more of the central and western United States. Over the next 10 days, very impressive amount of precipitation. Look at California, into Nevada here in the Pacific Northwest. That is just fabulous amounts of moisture. It's going to make for awful travel, but this is really good to see because this is going to get that first really good solid layer of snowpack down. Look at the snow across Canada over the next 10 days. Very impressive. Now notice a lot of the eastern side of the nation is going to be very warm. They're going to be talking about how warm November is so far, but this colder weather will eventually reach those folks later. So it's just a matter of time before the colder weather overspreads the rest of the nation later this month. Now here's a long-range forecast from the European Center. This goes out to 46 days, so take it with a grain of salt. But this takes us all the way through the middle part of December. And this is where it's showing the snow is going to be falling between now and the middle of December, according to what the European model is thinking. And so you can see the significant snow in the higher northern latitudes, as you would expect, this time of year. But there's a pretty good penetration of snow into the south as well. And if you look at the precipitation anomaly, the green and the blue shows above average precipitation. Brown and red means below. The white means average. Look at the Pacific Northwest. Look at the Rockies. Look at California. This is why we're encouraged that we're going to find ourselves in a better snowpack situation, at least as we head into the beginning of the snowpack season there. Also, some rain and snow possibly increasing there for the Midwest and Corn Belt. We still have this dry pocket along and east of the mountains that will still be a problem because a lot of the downsloping Chinook effects from these West Coast storm systems. Have yourself a good Thursday. Stay tuned. We'll have more for you tomorrow.